The atmosphere in the courtroom was dense and oppressive, weighed down by unspoken allegations and simmering animosity. It felt like a stage, and we were the unwilling performers, compelled to enact our private tragedy under the unforgiving spotlight of public judgment. Across the aisle, she sat, a portrait of calm indifference. Her posture was flawless, her dark hair pulled into a sleek, severe bun that accentuated the sharp contours of her face. But it was her eyes that held my attention, once a source of comfort, now cold and calculating. Those eyes, filled with a smug certainty, ignited a fury deep within me. We had been married for 12 years, a lifetime, or so I had believed. On the surface, Ashley and I were the perfect couple. We shared a comfortable home, thriving careers, and a social circle brimming with laughter and inside jokes. Together, we had painstakingly built a life, brick by careful brick, or so I thought. But like a house constructed on a bedrock of deceit, our life began to crumble. It started subtly, a shift in her routine, a growing detachment in her touch. I dismissed these signs, attributing them to stress or changes in our daily lives. How naive I was, so hopelessly naive. Then came the hushed phone calls, the murmured conversations in the other room, and the late nights at the office that had nothing to do with work. The first undeniable clue was a misplaced receipt for a hotel room, not a reservation for the two of us, but for her and another man. That was my initial taste of betrayal, a bitter, metallic tang that lingered on my tongue and refused to fade. But that was only a scratch compared to the blade that would follow. When I confronted her, the memory etched itself vividly into my mind. We stood in the kitchen, a space once filled with the comforting sense of our life, now tainted by the acrid bitterness of the moment. Her eyes, when I presented the evidence, flickered, not with guilt, but with something resembling irritation. She didn't deny it, at least not at first. Instead, she tried to rationalize it with twisted logic that cast her as the victim and me as the root of her infidelity. She even claimed she deserved it. Her words struck me like a physical blow, robbing me of breath. I wanted to yell, to rage, to dismantle every remnant of our shared life in fury. But I didn't. I stood there in silence, letting the gravity of her words hang heavy in the air. That silence spoke louder than any outburst ever could. In that moment, I resolved not to give her the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. I would keep my composure. I would be strategic. This was no longer just about a shattered marriage. It was about accountability. It was about ensuring she grasped the full weight of her betrayal. So, I began keeping records, dates, times, details. Every piece of evidence was meticulously documented and organized. I was building a case, a fortress of proof that would dismantle her pretense of innocence. The divorce proceedings were grueling, an excruciating dance of legal arguments and relentless accusations. The animosity radiating from her was palpable, like the searing heat of an open flame. But I was prepared, and as I sat in that courtroom, burdened by the enormity of it all, I felt an unshakable resolve. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about justice. There she sat, staring at me with that same smug, confident expression. It was a silent declaration of triumph. But as I locked eyes with her, I knew that my unwavering determination would speak louder than any verdict ever could. She believed she had won. Ashley thought her deceit, her calculated schemes, would shield her from any repercussions. She carried herself as if she were untouchable. The judge, a composed woman with an incisive gaze, called for the evidence to be submitted. My attorney, an astute and experienced professional, began presenting the case with methodical precision. Hotel receipts, credit card transactions, and incriminating photographs, every piece of evidence I had painstakingly compiled, were unveiled. Ashley's expression remained calm, her smirk unshaken. But I watched her closely, a cold sense of anticipation building within me. I knew the moment her meticulously constructed facade would crumble was drawing near. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted, the tension mounting like a storm on the verge of breaking. Then came the pivotal piece of evidence, the linchpin of the entire case, a series of text messages. These weren't just brief, casual exchanges, but a detailed, undeniable record of conversations spanning months. The messages didn't merely confirm her affair. They unveiled the depth of her manipulation. She had deceived not only me, but also her lover, a married man himself. The messages laid bare an intricate web of lies so complex that even the most skilled manipulator would struggle to untangle it. As the judge read the transcripts aloud, each word fell like a hammer blow against Ashley's carefully erected defenses. Sentence by sentence, her smirk faltered. Her poised demeanor began to unravel, her eyes darting frantically across the room as panic took hold. The smugness that once radiated from her face dissolved, replaced by unrestrained terror. Then came the ultimate revelation, a text message to her lover in which she brazenly outlined her intention to drain me financially during the divorce, leveraging the affair as a weapon. She called me a fool. This was her undoing, the evidence that unmasked her ruthless motives and lack of remorse. The message revealed her character in stark, unforgiving detail, exposing the depths of her betrayal. Her complexion turned ashen, her hands quivering as she whispered frantically to her attorney. The courtroom, which moments before had buzzed with suppressed energy, fell into an eerie silence. The weight of the truth pressed down on her, shattering the fragile world she had constructed. The judge, her tone authoritative and deliberate, addressed Ashley. "This evidence is damning, Ms. Walker. It paints a deeply troubling picture, not just of infidelity, but of calculated malice and a profound violation of trust." The gavel struck with a sharp, resonant crack, sealing Ashley's fate. It was a sound that seemed to echo endlessly in the room, signaling the collapse of her carefully plotted deception. Though I felt a fleeting sense of satisfaction, it was tempered by sorrow. This wasn't a triumph. It was a resolution. The divorce settlement heavily favored me, with the financial repercussions of her actions placed squarely on her shoulders. The judgment was a declaration of truth, a decisive statement that her lies and treachery would not go unanswered. Her lawyer, once brimming with confidence, now appeared utterly defeated. Ashley, pale and visibly shaken, refused to meet my gaze. She stared blankly at the table, grappling with the full extent of her miscalculations. The arrogance she had once flaunted was replaced with fear and utter desolation. Her silence spoke volumes. She had underestimated me, mistaking my quiet strength for naivety and my patience for blind trust. But she was wrong. I was stronger than I had ever believed, and it was that strength, paired with the undeniable truth, that carried the day. As I exited the courthouse, the burden that had weighed on me for so long began to lift. I glanced back briefly at Ashley, now a shadow of the person who once held so much power over me. Her face, once a mask of superiority, was etched with the harsh reality of her defeat. The sky was clear as I stepped outside, a serene contrast to the turbulence I had endured. It wasn't the ending I had once dreamed of, but it was an ending. And for now, that was enough.